Okay. All right. So we're taking a break from our regularly scheduled parak to do a sugya. Okay. And the sugya, I'm going to call the sugya the pitfalls of Mashal. Okay. So this was prompted by a quote from Amos Tversky, who is the author, one of the two authors of Thinking Fast and Slow, which I have not read. But I'm reading a book about Thinking Fast and Slow, which is called The Undoing Project. So it says here, the University of Illinois flew Amos Tversky to a conference about metaphorical thinking, only to have Amos argue that a metaphor was actually a substitute for thinking. Quote, because metaphors are vivid and memorable, and because they are not readily subjected to critical analysis, they can have considerable impact on human judgment, even when they are inappropriate, useless, or misleading, said Amos. They replace genuine uncertainty about the world with semantic ambiguity. A metaphor is a cover-up. Okay, so I read this and I recalled two pesukim, Mishlei 26:7 and 26:9, which are about how fools use mashalim. Okay, and I was like, I bet that's going to be relevant to this. And then I was thinking that maybe the same mechanisms which make for these mistakes are part of what makes Mishlei a powerful method, as well. And so I kind of wanted to just dive into the sugya of looking at the misuses of mashal in order to appreciate what the correct uses of mashal are. And so it's 26:7 and 26:9, and because those are explicitly about bad uses of mashalim, I'm assuming 26:8 also has something to do with it, even though it doesn't explicitly mention it. So I kind of want to take up those pesukim. Okay, so we'll do it the same way we usually do, but we're just taking a break from our parak. Okay, so let me just share the thing. Okay, so let's go here. All right, let's start off with this. Okay, 26:7. Dalyu, this is a hard one to translate. Dalyu shokayim mi piseach umashal bafi kasilim. Okay, the last half is easy, right? Actually, it's maybe easy, maybe not. All right, how do you translate mashal? Parable is one. Metaphor is another.
Story.
Parable and story, I would say are the same thing. Allegory, I put in the same category. So there's allegory, metaphor, whatever.
Conceptual model.
That's also good. I would say a saying, right? Like a proverb, as it were, as the book is called, right? Okay. In the mouth of fools. Okay, but what's the first half? Yeah, considerable. Yeah, Dalyu Shokaim Piseach. Okay, so Piseach is probably the one that is most familiar. Blind?
Oh,
Limp. Yeah. Limp. Yeah. You're thinking of Summa.
Oh, it's way off.
Right. Yeah.
No, I thought that was.
No, it's never blind. Yeah. Okay. So so from a limp person. Okay. What are Shokaim? Thighs. Okay. And this first word is the one that's hardest to translate. So here you have some machlokas. Okay, so ציון says dalyu is inyan harama, kmo dalu einav lemarom, or like we said in halal. No, never mind. That's the opposite. Mikimi offer dal. No, dal is a low person. No, I was thinking of the mikimi part.
Are those called antonyms? No.
Yeah, antonyms. Yeah, right. Yeah, opposites. Dalyu is inyan harama is lifting up.
One word means two opposite things.
Oh, contronym. Yeah, right. So I guess you're right. This is a contronym, right? Hold on just a second. Now I'm confused. Dalu einai lamarom. So, but here he's saying is to lift up. Yeah, I think so.
It's like dali, right? Same word.
Like from a bucket?
Yeah, to draw.
Yeah, to draw water. Yeah, right. So raised thighs from a limp person and a parable in the mouth of fools. Okay, that's weird translation. Okay, we'll see good translations in a second. And shokaim are shoki ha-raglaim. So the what other kind of shokim are there than the shokim of the raglaim? Okay, I don't know. Arm thighs, is that what you call biceps? Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought shok just means thigh. Okay, piseach is a chiger, is like someone who's limping. All right. Sadigon says ukashim shemuram ha-hiluch min ha-piseach. Okay, so oh, maybe this is what it means. Muram could be removed, just like walking has been removed or lifted from a limping person. Kach hurama ha-chachmi mi pios ha-ksilim. Okay, so I'm going to type that out here. So just as walking has been lifted, okay, i.e. removed from a limp person, so too wisdom has been removed from the mouths of fools. Okay, and he says, piseach is, this is the Arabic word, v'hu mi sheyavashu surire raglav. This is someone who the somethings of his legs have withered, to the point where he can't walk. Okay, so there's, people have like, I don't know if you guys have this with like people who are younger than you. People take an irrational pride in like I'm so old that I remember back when blank, so like I think I've got like so my the easy one is obviously like I remember before like internet and cell phones, but the less easy one was in my first grade class we actually had a movie projector to show movies, and then the third one, and this kind of doesn't count, but I was friends with a kid who had polio. Now it doesn't count because he was from Argentina, so I think they just didn't get the vaccine out in time. And I remember his right leg was withered and it was in a brace, and he could like unclasp the brace and his leg would just be like hanging, and it was just like it was the same length, but it was like, it was like extremely thin and withered, so like that was crazy. So that's what I picture when I read these translations here. Our scroll says, like the limp hanging thighs of the cripple. I don't think cripple is a politically correct term anymore. So is a parable in the mouth of fools. Living Now says, like thighs appear high up to a cripple. So they're going with a harama translation. So is a proverb in the mouth of fools. And then Alter says, thighs hang slack on the lame, and a proverb in the mouth of fools. Okay, so similar translations here. I did not look at the Targum. In tital halchasa lechagira. It's couple milsa min pume desifla. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna look this up now. We don't have time. we'll just keep that up there in case we decide to do it tomorrow as a parish. Okay. So those are our translations. They're pretty much in the same vein. Oh, I didn't do this correctly. Hold on. Okay. All right, so what are our questions? I'm going to keep these. I think, okay, hold on a second. I think we can, alters is similar enough to our scroll, right? Or actually, I'm going to go with alter instead. Okay, so let's use these as our translations, and we'll keep it loose because I'm not sure which one makes most sense. So we'll keep them all up. Yeah.
Just for my own clarification.
Yeah.
What basic notion is being predicated of the first set in the process?
I think that's part of the question.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. In other words, so the main, I just a quick introduction here, by the way. So I've said this before, but I'll repeat it. Mishlei has several sections in it. Okay, so there's 1 through 9, which is introductory, which Rabbi Zimmerholt is the only book of Mishlei, and he says the rest of it is just like an appendix. Okay, that's the opposite in my opinion. 10 through 24 is Iker Mishlei. Okay, it's like core Mishlei Shlomo. 25 through 29 is Mishlei Shlomo. What's the phrase? It's the Mishlei Shlomo of Anshe Chizkiyahu. Okay, which means that they were authored by Shlomo, but formulated by the people in Chizkiyahu's time, which was much later. And then there's like 2 sections at the end of Mishlei where it's debatable where to draw the line. But if you look at the pesukim in Mishlei 25, chapter 25 through 29, they read very much like straight up mashalim, like such and such is like such and such, whereas the pesukim from 10 through 24 are much more like cryptic and like you have to like decode them. Yeah.
Wasn't all of Mishlei written by Anshe Chizkiyahu?
Well, in the pesukim themselves, they say that 25 is where it begins. The Mishlei that were transcribed by Anshe Chizkiyahu. So the way the book presents itself is, Mishlei Shlomo, like that he actually like wrote them. So the book itself differentiates. What makes you say that all of them were written by Anshe?
The Gemara says which person authored each book of Tanakh.
Mm-hmm.
So it says there.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. So I guess though, then that strengthens my argument that it must mean that the earlier Mishlei were like verbatim from Shlomo, whereas the later ones were like, ideas that were put into Mishlei form by Untitled Chapter or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So what are the questions? The main question being, what is this mashal, right? What is this mashal? And that's why I gave this little intro here, because like it's kind of not fun I mean, they're fun in their own way, but from 25 and on, like most of the questions are just, what is the mashal, but yeah. So we could break that down though, right? So what does Dalyu Shokaim Mipiseach even mean? Okay, and then what quality of that is similar to a mashal in the mouth of Ksilim? Okay, and Ksilim are Mishleic fools, which we might have to define, which I guess we'll ask the question, what is a Ksil in this context? And again, just to basic methodology here. So Ksil, all the terms that Shlomo has for fools in Mishlei, there's a technical definition, and then there's a generic usage. Okay, technical definition, all the meforshim have their own technical definitions. So that's something that we have to figure out on our, from our own learning, or just look up the meforshim. But then sometimes it just means like a stam fool. Like it's not using a technical term, just someone who makes bad decisions, or someone who's like, in the grips of his emotions in some way. So that's why I'm saying in this context, like maybe this is a technical fool, or maybe it really doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
One way of reading the first half is that you can say has shokaim, you just can't use them at all.
Okay.
So then, according to that read, how is it that Ksilim have Mishal?
Okay. So that's a good question. I mean, I think the answer though is clear. You hear the question?
I hear the question.
Dude.
I do.
So how would Ksil get a mashal if he's? Yeah, I mean, Ksil can open up Mishlei, right? So, and I think that is the seductive thing in a mashal, because in addition to what Tversky said about like the mashal being like a substitute for thinking, not in spite of, because of that, people can quote mashalim as if it's their knowledge, but they might not really know the idea, Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I feel like there are some generic questions we can ask on here. The specific questions are hard because it's so, yeah.
Who's the
Yeah. Right. No, and I think this is who is the audience, and I think it's an important question because who are the possible audiences? What would you say?
The one who's listening to the mashal, the one who might be giving a mashal, and they themselves are. Okay,
good. So the one who hears it from a Ksil, the one who gives a mashal to a Ksil. Okay. Now we know it's probably not going to be the Ksil himself,
because he's not reading this.
Because he's not, or he's going to misunderstand it. But no, there's a general principle in Mishlei that certain types of Mishleic fools are open to understanding, and certain ones are not. And Ksil is one who is not. And there's a lot of pesukim about like don't speak in the ears of Ksil lest he mock the intelligence of your words. In fact, chapter 26. I think is all about, let me just double check this here. I think chapter 26 is the one that's all about like talking to fools and not talking to fools. Let me just give you some examples from that. 26. Al tan ksil ki ivalta pentishve lo gamata. Do not answer a fool according to his foolishness, lest you be equated to him. And then you have our pesukim here. Ra'isa ish chacham beinav tikva l'ksil mimeno. I've seen a man who's wise in his own eyes. There's more hope for the ksil than him. I think there's a couple other ones in here also about not talking to the fool. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So yes.
Yourself vis-a-vis any mashal.
Okay. Yeah. Yourself, i.e., a potential ksil, right? Or the ksil part in you. Someone who is, I guess that's also someone who's prone to being a ksil. Yeah. Okay. I think these are like three possible audiences. Okay.
Why is it befi ksilim?
as opposed to,
Ksilim.
okay, why is it befi ksilim as opposed to just like ksil? Yeah.
Is there something specific about a muscle here, or
Okay, good.
Says chacham?
Yeah. Okay, good. So is there something specific? Oh, so why specifically? Why specify mashal? Okay. To what extent, if at all, does this apply to other forms of chachma? Yeah, you would think that any chachma is going to be dangerous in the mouth of a fool, and in fact, spoiler alert for later on in the week. Oops, sorry, that's the one we're doing right now. The next pasuk says, "Kitzur Evan b'margema kin nosin l'ksil kavod," like one who loads a stone into a slingshot, so is someone who gives the fool honor. Okay, and that actually is brought down la halacha in the Rambam in Hilchos Talmud Torah, where he says that it's usher to teach a talmid she'eino hagun. It's usher to teach a talmid who doesn't have good midos, and he says ein kavod ela Torah, so that seems to be all of Torah. This one just is mashal, seemingly. I think the last question I would ask here is, so what, or what is the consequence of or harm in this? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Also, just a not so question. If we're talking about mashal from a kasil, what does mashal not from a kasil look like?
Okay. Yes, that's a good question. So what is the opposite? What does a mashal in the mouth of a non-ksil or a chacham look like? Yeah. Okay. So let's try to figure it out now. So we're going to have to kind of like take a stance on how we want to translate this. The harder, raised just seems like a harder read, Dahlia, is there another word? Is there another way to understand, like, especially living knock is very, very hard. Like thighs appear high up to a cripple.
What was our scroll?
Our scroll was similar to altar, saying like the limp hanging thighs of a cripple, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. I like slack better, not the app. Thighs hang slack on the lame and a proverb in the mouth of fools. Yeah. See, so the weird thing is that a person who is piseach knows that he's a piseach, right? So to him, I mean, because you literally can't walk in the normal way if you're a piseach, but I feel like the ksil doesn't have that kind of awareness of a mashal in his mouth, So it's not describing it from. So that I think maybe that's also why I don't like. Oh no, or is that the reason why I would like living nach? Because it would suggest that he is aware that he has a deficiency, Yeah.
There's another question.
Yeah.
Why is the kasil giving mashal in the first place?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the Yaakov's question. I just forgot to write it down, which is where and why does the ksil have a mashal befi in the first place? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think I didn't hear WS this, but mashal befi, does that mean he's saying it, or he hasn't?
Oh, okay. That's also a good question. Yeah. So what, I'm gonna add this to here. What does befi mean? That he's saying it, or that it's merely locked and loaded? Right? Right? It's like he's like, it could be on yeah. So the way my mind is going, just in terms of like how to approach this, is just thinking about, whenever you have a mashal, right? Again, it's just basic mashal thinking here, and maybe this is, I guess, the topic we're talking about, right? But like, a mashal is always comparing two things in terms of one characteristic or quality, right? So if you say like she eats like a pig, that does not mean that she rolls around in the mud while she's eating. It probably means that she just like is very sloppy or like eats, like makes grunting noises, but like, so we have this very broad topic of mashal b'fi ksilim, which we don't know what that even is. I think that's the one we know less about. And then we have this very specific imagery, depending on which parish you do, of Dalia Shokayim Piseach. And so the question is like, what quality is being highlighted in that mashal for the nimshal of the mashal b'fi ksilim? So let's just start saying qualities here of Dalia Shokayim Piseach. Yeah.
Was that you, the question?
Yeah. The question is, let me actually, I'll do better than Pia. I'll say it better. Okay. Which is one of the advantages of mashal is you go from the known to the unknown. One of the disadvantages of mashal is you go from the known to the unknown. Okay, right? So like we know what Dalia Shokayim Piseach means. We don't know what mashal b'fi ksilim means. So Shlomo is like taking a snapshot of this Dalia Shokayim Piseach, saying, okay, focus on one characteristic or quality of that. And I'm trying to teach you an idea about a mashal b'fi ksilim that corresponds to that quality. So our question is, what quality is he highlighting? Yeah.
So a lame person has the leg, but they can't use it for its function.
Right. Okay, good.
So perhaps the ksilim has the mashal, meaning he has the text.
Yeah.
Well, the mashal, but he doesn't have the nimshal.
Okay, good.
You
All right.
use
So
it to get down to sin.
yeah. All right. So that's a nice clean parish. Let's just elaborate on that. Right. So the Piseach has a leg, but he can't use it properly. Right. Or he can't use it at all, depending on how crippled he is. Right. The Ksil and the leg is designed to be walked on, and he can't do it. He's incapable of doing it. So too, the mashal is something that the Ksil possesses, but he can't use it for its proper effect or for its intended design. Yeah.
Also, just the raising up then.
Yeah.
There's also the leg will still be moving. It's not like it's just like sitting there.
Okay, right.
Moving. It's just not actually going to like land and be able it can't stand on it.
Right. So this is part of, I think, the ambiguity in the actual pesukim, because to me, Shokayim means he has this in both legs, but Piseach implies that he does walk, right? It's not like, I don't think we call someone a Piseach if he is totally immobilized, paralyzed from the waist down, So maybe I just argued in your favor. I thought I was asking a question. Say what you said again.
No, I don't know. I think it's not helping me, but the raising up of your leg, it's still moving like a leg.
Right, you can move it with your body. You just can't move the leg.
It's actually not like the way the leg's supposed to be. It's plant, and then you can put something on it, put your weight on it, and use it. It's not actually correct. It's moving. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if that could. To me, that doesn't. To me, that is an elaboration on just the mashal element of what Yaakov was saying, unless you're bringing out a new quality. Is that? It was more just the tacking on, if I may, the Dalia part of it. Yeah.
Okay, I hear that. Yeah. Another possibility, by the way, is so Piseach. I guess we didn't bring this up, right? What is in this week's parsha? What does Piseach mean in this week's parsha?
Like pass off.
Yeah. What does that mean? To skip or jump, right? Okay, so I think another way to translate a piseach is a hobbling person, right? Like so a person who has full use of both of their legs can put equal weight on both of the legs, but if you don't, you kind of have to thrust your leg like this, you're throwing your weight, So it could be referring to the quality of motion as opposed to the quality. In other words, like the limp hanging legs, the first approach we did was describing the leg itself, but it could be that the emphasis is on the piseach, which is that it's going to result in him being compromised in his motion. Now, I don't know what the nimshal would be, but let's just work that out really quickly here, because I think your idea is a complete way to read it. Meaning
Just a question on that approach.
Right.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun here by assuming things, but
Piseach the gun. Yeah.
Okay, still seemingly is not actually getting anywhere versus a piseach in that way is able to still move.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So I think that's intuitively what I was why I think these are two separate approaches is that he can't walk at all, That's your approach. Or is it that he can walk, but his walking is compromised?
An awkward walking.
Right. It's an awkward walking, right? Or just like a not fully efficient walking. So that would be also interesting, because not like totally misunderstanding a mashal to the point where you're not using it at all might be different than misapplying a mashal. Like there's a book that I think I own this, but I think I also can't find it because I haven't seen it in years. There's a book called Half Truths, and it's the book has a cool design, which is, I think I told you about this once. I think I offered to lend it to you, and that's why I tried finding it. I couldn't find it. It's one of the things about mashalim about idioms in English is that there are often two of them that are opposites. So let's say like birds of a feather flock together, opposites attract. Like, so one of them says, I think actually Aristotle uses that analogy in ethics, but like there's, there are idioms and sayings that are true under certain circumstances. And if you apply them to the wrong circumstance, then like, let's say, here's an example. Like, I don't know what the parallel idiom is, but let's say like, someone is like, sick for weeks and infected, and they're just eating apples. And you say, why are you eating apples? They say, well, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, that's might be true, but that's about preventative illness, not when you are actually sick, So like, to me, and maybe it comes down to the same thing, but like a misapplied mashal is a different idea than like just like, a misapplied mashal that is true in one context but not in the other is different than someone who just misunderstands a mashal entirely. Like he can't decode it. Like he doesn't have the nimshal. He has the shell but not the internal thing. Just like the piseah has the leg but not the motion of the leg, or not the muscles. The muscles have atrophied. So the interesting thing in terms of just thoughts on the audience here is that it sounds like this guy is definitely going to be a danger to himself, right? And possibly a danger to others if he's in a position of authority, right? And we know that a ksil can be in a position of authority. Like you have got plenty politicians throughout the ages who have been, who have been ksilim, or someone who has the reputation of a chacham in a certain area and is actually a ksil, like someone who's like a quack, like doctor or whatever, yeah.
Just also one thing, if we're gonna take like there still is something there, just like a misuse of it.
Yeah.
Then that does mean that someone else like could swoop in and then like take the good from there and then use it for something else. Like let's say if the ksil brings in, say like some idea and the ksil misapplied it, but then someone else can see, oh, that is a good idea. It just needs to get applied to this other thing. Let's say you have like a group that's like working on something.
Yeah.
So you try to bring in some approach, but like, no, it's not supposed to go on like this part of the project, it's supposed to like work into a different part.
Yeah.
And then you still would be able then to work with what the ksil is bringing and then just like.
Yeah. So that's the good thing about a mashal, which is that if it's a good mashal, it contains chachma. So even if the delivery man is idiotic, you can still extract like the goodness of the mashal, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Some person these two approaches. One that the ksil doesn't understand the nimshal or they misapply.
Yeah.
Is it possible to say he's not understanding the mashal itself?
That's also possible. That's a good point. Right.
I'm just wondering, like, if it's still reading Mishleic,
right?
Like the 10 through 24.
Yeah.
Mishleic, would he understand those mashalim?
That's a good question. Also, let me incorporate that here. Also, here. Did we not? All right. Well, I'll just add it here. What exactly does the ksil not understand? The nimshal or even the mashal? Okay. Yeah.
What do you mean by not understand the mashal?
Meaning like I'll give you a dumb example, right? So let's say a ksil reads this and he's like, this is about the thighs of the korban pesach. Like he just doesn't even understand the mashal itself,
That's in another language.
Or so let's say he says the early bird gets the worm, right? And he thinks that it means that the early bird understands the worm. There's and I'll give you a better example. In the Mashalim Chazal, you see people misreading midrashim all the time, or misquoting the mashal. Like again, like the one that drives me crazy is that people say an angel teaches you the entire Torah when you're in the womb. There's no midrash that says that at all, right? Is that the kid learns all the Torah, the fetus learns all the Torah in the womb, and then when it's born, an angel punches it in the face, punches it in the mouth, right? Punches it in the mouth, and it forgets everything. So they're completely missing the angel is the thing that's hitting your mouth and making you forget. It's not the thing that's teaching you Torah. It's like even the Mashal could get lost in the mouth of the fool. Yeah. Okay, so let's stop here for today because we're already over time, and then we'll plan on doing meforshim tomorrow.
Do you want to recap, right?
Yeah, recap is we have two basic approaches to the Mashal, which is either the piseach. It's highlighting the fact that the piseach cannot use his leg at all. He has the leg, but there's no usage. And the ksil has the Mashal, but no nimshal. Or that because of the piseach's handicap, he walks in an inefficient way or in an awkward way or in an unusual way. So the ksil does use the Mashal, but it's a misuse of the Mashal in some way. Those are our two working approaches. Okay, stop here for today. It's possible, by the way, that that our learning of these pesukim will go faster because the pesukim themselves are so much more simple than the ones in 10 through 24. So I don't know how long it'll take us, or how long it'll take us to get through these three pesukim. Yeah.